Hello, I'm EN Rowland and am introducing you to SDG 5, Gender Equality. The main goal for this SDG is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So how can we think about gender equality and empowerment? Gender refers to the social attributes and opportunities associated with being male and female. These are largely socially constructed and learned through socialization processes. That means they can also change with some effort. What do we mean by equality in terms of opportunities and treatment? This means to ensure the absence of discrimination on the grounds of sex, either directly or indirectly, and the absence of barriers to economic, political, and social participation on grounds of sex and gender and other characteristics. These barriers are often indirect, difficult to discern, and caused and maintained by structural phenomena and social representations that have proven to be particularly resistant to change. An example of that could be a job offer that's announced in a male-dominant area, and the result could be that no women apply. Then the people who sent or who wrote the job announcement or who advertised it in certain places, not knowing their own buyers, being indirectly affected by it, might say, well, we gave them all the chances to apply and nobody came forward, so we have to give the job to a male. Now, the investigation here would require that you look at how this invitation was written, where it was placed, in which tone the invitation was given, all those kind of nuances that actually keep old structures in place. Again, these are not necessarily on purpose done this way, but they definitely need to be investigated in detail to find why it's happening this way. The issue of empowerment concerns women gaining power and control over their own lives. It involves awareness raising, building self-confidence, expansion of choices, increased access to and control over resources and actions, in order to transform the structures and institutions which reinforce and perpetuate gender discrimination and inequality. This implies that to be empowered, women must also not only have equal capabilities and equal access to resources and opportunities, but they must also have the agency to use these rights, capabilities and resources and opportunities to make strategic choices and decisions. Again, this is something that may not be so obvious to us. The Gender Equality Index allows us to compare what's going on in gender equality issues around the world, so comparing different countries. SDG 5 has 6 targets and 3 measures, and the report 2020 shows us what's going on a global level in terms of the status quo of gender equality. Some European statistics can be observed in this wonderful website where we can compare different aspects of gender equality and compare it within different countries in Europe. I encourage you to go to these sites and really check out your own country and maybe your neighboring countries to help you understand the depth of this issue. When we look at Austria, we could say, well, we're all moving in the right direction. This is also true. So we're closing the gaps slowly but surely, and we're including more and more women in leadership and political positions. But we still have some problems to work on. Violence against women is rather high in Austria compared to other European countries. We have a very large gender pay and gender pension gap. This has to do with maybe women staying home for a number of years during their career path, taking care of children or of the elderly. And therefore, when their time comes to retire, the years on the money aren't there to make that a comfortable retirement, compared to their male partners who do not stop their careers or working in order to take care of family members. This brings us to the third issue that is still a huge thing to work on for us in Austria. That's the unequal distribution of unpaid care and housework. So when women are working full-time, it is often the case that they do the whole thing. So they do the job, they do the kids, they do the grandfathers and grandmas and the housework. And their male partners are not really sharing in an equal way. That, of course, creates all the other issues that we talked about. So when we think about contributions that organizations could make, we want to look at the core purpose of the organization, the stakeholders that are involved, and how this particular SDG, so the gender issues, impact that organization. Also, what challenges and costs emerge from this impact, and on the other hand, what opportunities and benefits arise at the same time. When we have all that in our heads, then we can really design contributions, inward and outward contributions that cohere together into a useful, practical whole. Let's look at educational institutions. In terms of SDG 5, the task lies here in dismantling gender stereotypes through its educational offers on the one hand, and role modeling a path towards gender equality in the organization on the other hand. So through fair pay, for instance, or gender and diversity sensitive communication, or to provide support to students on non-traditional career paths and promoting female leadership. An inward action, for instance, could be to develop and include gender and diversity sensitive topics and teaching methods across all curricula. An example of an outward action could be to support women's organizations that engage in schools and or give them a platform in the own organization, institution. Municipalities. So in terms of SDG 5, towns, cities, villages have the tasks of co-creating or creating gender and diversity sensitive policy and motivating the community to dismantle gender stereotypes. An inward action could be to provide additional training to support female leadership in the community. This, of course, also includes training males to share their responsibilities. And an outward action could be to collectively create continuous training opportunities for female leaders in the region. Corporations and other types of organizations. In terms of SDG 5, the opportunities for contribution may vary greatly between different types or sizes of organizations. But the core contribution to society for reaching SDG 5 is to integrate gender issues in policy and practice, to balance male and female leadership in the organization, and to help dismantle gender stereotypes. An example for an inward action could be to build a culture of gender equality, so offering fair pay to all, closing any gender gaps, pay gaps, or pension gaps, following a gender and diversity sensitive policy within the organization, and when engaging with stakeholders. An outward action could be, for example, to support women organizations and involve them in the business of win-win results. Then the deck takes you to an activity where you can think about your own organization or an organization of your choice, going through the same kind of reflection activity we have just done, and then test your designs for coherence between inward and outward actions and a balance between costs and benefits for these contributions. Then the deck takes you through reflection questions and further information that you might want to check out, and invites you to the SDG journey, where we ask you to observe, for instance, for a week, evidence for gender inequality and measures to mitigate it in your environment. And then also to notice what's happening on both ends of the spectrum and how privileges are offered and enjoyed. Also to reflect upon what variables or conditions in society create both gender equality and gender inequality. And this was it for SDG 5. I'll see you in another set.